Welcome to Mike Talks Business. I am Mike Jennings, and I'm talking all things business with various guests, highlighting passion and excitement, and also dealing with the anxieties and risks that come with the business journey. Today, we're going to be talking about the nature and impact of toxicity in a business and how that can, whilst feeling horrible at the time, can lead to change in your business. And I'm absolutely delighted today to welcome a good friend as my guest and an ex-mentor with me with the Oxford Business Mentors, Andrew Wood, who is the founder and owner of Little Wheels. And Andrew, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself beyond that and say, if you wouldn't mind saying, first of all, welcome. I'm really very, very pleased to see you.
Pleased to be here.
Quite a long time, but it's really lovely to catch up. I perhaps you can tell us a little bit about Little Wheels and what your current project and what you've been doing.
Yes, of course. As Mike said, my name's Andrew Wood. I live in Abingdon, and about 10 years ago, I sold my then business and was at a loose end and was a collector of model cars and had been buying and selling them to build a collection. And I thought, well, I can make a business out of this. So I started in my garage, selling model cars on eBay, and grew it from there. My background, my previous business was an IT business, software. So I was able to write software to underpin the business. And by doing that, to get the volumes up, because anyone who sold anything on eBay knows how long it takes to write a listing. So we moved on from there. Within a couple of years, we'd outgrown the garage. I say we, because my son was working with me at the time. We moved into the business unit where we are now at Kingston Bagpew, at Harwell, on the Harwell campus. And in about a month's time, I take the keys of a new, much larger business unit at Kingston Bagpews, because we've grown out of this one. We're selling something like 25,000 model cars a year to more than 100 countries worldwide. We now employ 5 people. The business is growing steadily every year and continues to do so. And the movement into the bigger premises allow me to take on more stock and to drive my sales even further. And all that from pre-owned model cars, buses, trucks and planes. So that's where I am now, and it's a heap of fun.
I think I think you mentioned to me last time we spoke actually that you are the second largest seller of model vehicles in the country. Is that right?
I believe so. For in the pre-owned market, yes, I believe we are.
Yeah.
There's a larger company who have a big shop as well and sell new stuff, who do more than we do. But I think in trading with the model that we have, we're probably the biggest doing it the way we do. And we've been able to do that because the software we use for the business can write up to 100 eBay listings a day and just directly upload them. And that gives us, because obviously every product's unique because it's secondhand, so everyone has to be handled separately. And that's what is normally the limiting factor that stops people scaling up. And we've been able to overcome that.
And is it your IT background that's helped you with?
Yeah, very much self-taught. I mean, my real background is as a high street retailer in large groups like Arcadia, previously the Burton Group, British Home Stores, Clark's Shoes. Right. But my career was concurrent with the development of personal computers, and I just kept up with them all the time. I bought my first one in 1982 and taught myself to code, and I've been doing it ever since. And that's the basis of what we do now.
I did similar. I had a Sinclair Spectrum.
Mine was an Acorn Electron.
I remember them well. Yeah.
Yes.
I reckon I had one of the first in the country, and I sold it to my uncle who was in Holland. And he reckoned it was the first in Holland. So I bought it very early on. I bought a BBC micro after that, and like you, I learned Microsoft Basic, the basic language around that time, and taken an interest. But my field has been more, as you know, finance and accountancy. So using spreadsheets has been the main thing for me. But following that journey from the way computers have developed is quite interesting, isn't it? And I know in your business, you set up a really whizzy database
Yes.
of like all the possible model cars you can buy in the world and all the different color combinations and etc. Well, tell us.
I won't quite claim that, but it's cumulative, and every time we add one, it's there to refer to next time one comes in, and we've probably got 100,000 variants logged in there.
Wow. Wow. I mean, to me, that's just phenomenal. And I can see that you're animated with this. It's an exciting, exciting growth, and it's growth from what was effectively a hobby or an interest.
Yes.
It just shows to anyone listening, just shows what you can do, how you can make a business out of almost anything.
Yeah, it didn't just happen though, Mike. When I first started, I was only able to list 10 a day because of it being so manual. And that took me from 5 in the morning till 10 at night, 7 days a week. And now it's Monday to Friday lunchtime, trading 7 days a week. But we managed to get it all done in that period. And it's about process. My best thing, really, even better than the coding, is designing process.
Yeah.
And by making the processes absolutely rock solid and easy to follow, we're able to increase volumes and do things so much faster and more efficiently.
Yeah.
And so you can't just start and just carry on as you are. You've got to push all the time, and that's what we do.
Well, that's a really good reference point, isn't it, for entrepreneurial activity? Isn't you're not staying the same ever. You have to
Never.
keep developing the product or the process, in your case, or the service or the quality or the speed. Something always has to be changing. And if you're anything like me, if things aren't changing, we get bored really quickly. So yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And I wouldn't say we change things for change's sake, but we're always on the lookout for something to make the business better.
Yes.
And we'll always embrace change rather than resist it.
Yeah.
And once we've analysed that it's going to be good for the business. I mentioned that my son started the business with me 10 years ago. After a couple of years, he went off travelling and then went and worked for a few other different businesses. And early last year, came back to work for Little Wheels.
Right.
And he and I partner very effectively in making those sorts of decisions. As obviously, I'm not going to be doing it forever. I'm 64 years old. I do intend to retire at some stage, and he will take it on. And it's very much a case of involving him in all the decision making, and also leaving a process-sized business that he can continue to run with me, having less and less involvement.
It's a really nice thing to do. In one of the previous episodes, I was talking about legacy of business and how what you develop and how you pass it on. Quite a lot of people want to build a business and then sell it, and that becomes their pension fund. But it's not. It's lovely that you can be able to pass it on to a son or a daughter who takes an interest in what you're doing. And the fact that he's gone away for a while and tried other things and then come back is really solid. A really solid.
It was essential because when we started the business, he just finished school, and you really have to have some context. You do need to know where what you're doing fits into the real world, and by going away and coming back, that was effectively achieved. Very much so.
I remember my father saying to me, "Don't even think about going back into the family business. Instead, go off and learn a trade or a profession, and have that as something in the background. So if anything goes wrong with the business, you've always got that to fall back on." And I did accountancy, very wise. But I said the same to my children, and it doesn't bother me if they become a bricklayer or any trade. It doesn't really matter what they do, as long as what they're doing they're happy with. They're enjoying it, because if you're enjoying something, the passion comes out and the effort and the motivation is all there, and you live a happy life, which I can see you clearly are doing now. And you've got a way forward with your son, which is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, very solid.
That segues quite nicely, because life wasn't always nice for you. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about your previous company and what happened with that, if you don't mind talking a bit about that.
No, not at all. In about 2000, I had developed a lot of business analytical skills working at the Arcadia Group, and was doing a lot of work with the group CEO and providing him with management data. And that came from IT skills and the knowledge of retail. So I made a decision that I would actually step outside world of employment and set up a consultancy to do that for other retail organizations on the back of software products and consultancy. So I set up my own business, which was designed to work into high street retail. We won early business with B&Q, Boots, Argos, Homebase, and in the end we had Carphone Warehouse in England and in France. We had Foot Locker in Holland. We had Under Armour in the States. We had quite a good portfolio of companies. I had a conversation with an ex-colleague from the world of corporate who was taking early retirement, and we thought it would be great for him to come and join me in the business. When we worked together previously, he'd been in more senior roles than I, and was extremely well networked throughout retail, especially in the area of security and loss prevention. So from the perspective of the business I had, it was a great idea to bring someone in with those skills, that seniority, and that level of network.
Was he as a partner or a co-share in some way?
Came in first as an employee of the software business that we were running, but we also started up to run alongside it with a business with the same name, which was a consultancy business in loss prevention, and he had a major shareholding in that business. Okay. The ownership of the business got very fluid over time for a number of reasons, and it ended up that we were more or less equal shareholders towards the end. Now, it started to go wrong a bit because it was a very difficult business model compared with the business model I have now, whereas I sell lots and lots of things, little and often, all to the same people who are members of the public, and they pay up front and the cash just keeps coming in. With that business, it was project-based into large corporates. So every deal took months, even years to swing. And then you get into the typical 90-day settlement scenario. So we're always short of cash as a business. Cash flow was the number one issue all the time. And in business, that's never a comfortable place to be because you're struggling. And I think that was probably the root cause of friction between the two of us. And there was an element of personality in that I'm familiar with family businesses, having been brought up on a family farm, and everyone I knew when I was a kid was self-employed. So self-employment is normal. My colleagues I brought in had never been involved with SMEs, small businesses in any way, and struggled to bring in what had worked for him in the corporate world into SME, expecting it to work just as well. And it doesn't. You can't position yourself in an SME and build a power base and all that sort of thing like you can in a large corporation, because there isn't room for it and you're just too busy getting on with the job. And especially if the business isn't performing that well, it just makes the friction worse.
It sounds like a clash of cultures.
It was a clash of cultures, and it was two big personalities. Right. We both had very senior roles, and I'd been running my own business for a couple of years when he joined us. So we're both used to being in charge, and that didn't work well at all. And I think my sort of being in charge was very much involved with taking on the donkey work as well. And I think my new colleague saw it more about being in charge and was less involved with the day-to-day. And that didn't help either. And in the end, we both found the other impossible to work with. And it wasn't all one way. I know he found me very difficult, as I found him very difficult. Actually, we had a third party involved who was someone we both knew from previous work, who got on to be very personally successful and very wealthy. And he was a friend to both of us and actually put money into the business. And when he saw what was happening between two of his friends, he actually stepped in and tried to make things better. And he did for a while. That did work for a while. But in the end, the company failed. And the company failed because you can't have a successful company where the two principals in that organisation can't get on with each other.
Yeah.
We found our main competitor. We did have one big competitor, and they came in and took the business on and just took on the debt. We walked away with nothing.
Wow.
But I still have my house. Some people don't in that situation.
Still have your what? Sorry.
I still had my house.
Right. Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people who find themselves in that situation lose the lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And that was largely some very good luck in finding a purchase of the business, and our friend who was helping bankroll the business as well worked very hard to make sure that didn't happen.
So
in the end,
that was hanging over you. That was hanging over you for a while.
Years. For about 5 or 6 years, we were next door to insolvent for about 5 years, and it takes a lot of stress to carry that on your back.
Yeah.
And I was carrying it all of that.
Yeah.
So yes, it was a very, very tough time. It takes its toll on you as well.
Yeah. I can see that. That sounded bad. I didn't mean that. I mean, I can hear from your voice, the problems that cause, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. So toxicity in business, it can enter the business quite subtly, and it can creep in slowly, and before you know it, it's almost too late to do anything about it.
That's exactly the case. Yes.
Yeah, you're stuck in a position, and it's a lesson for anyone listening is to be ultra careful. I mean, in two things. First of all, people, but also in how much you commit of your own personal assets into the business. Committing your house.
Yeah. I think when you're starting a small business, you really have to commit everything. Or in a business that starts to fail, when do you stop?
Yes.
When do you stop putting money into it? I mean, it's never been the case with this business. It wasn't the business I'm running now wasn't self-funding for probably about 1.5 years. So I had to take on a bit of debt to get it going, which took a leap of faith given what I'd just gone through.
Yes.
But very quickly it became self-funding, and this is now, it generates cash all the time, which is great. But if you're in a business that needs a bit of cash and you just need another £10,000 this month to cover the payroll, it's very tempting to start dipping into your personal resources to do that.
Yeah.
And before you know where you're at, you're over your ears, and it's very, very difficult to pull back.
I'd imagine as well at the moment there's probably quite a lot of businesses that are having to dig deep through the problems with COVID and or Brexit at the moment. I mean, I know from talking to people, there's a lot of businesses doing very, very well at the moment.
Yes.
But well, not even sure it's equal. There are numbers of businesses, especially in hospitality, of course, where it's a struggle, and some will have chosen to cease trading for exactly that reason. They don't want to commit anymore when they're uncertain about the future. And those
I feel very sorry for those people. Yes.
Yeah.
And
me too.
I just thank my lucky stars that I was in, distance selling, internet selling, when all this happened, and it had a double effect in that more and more people were at home with nothing to do and shopping online, which drove my sales. And a lot of other people were looking at their homes and saying, right, what do I do with this time at home? Let's have a good tidy up and clear out, and I'll sell all this stuff that's hanging around. And so I was able to buy an awful lot of collections, still am, based on that. So both supply and demand have been stimulated.
Interesting.
But I know there's a lot of people who are in the position where they're having to make some hard decisions about a business they've spent years building up. How much of my personal resources do I commit to this, or do I say goodbye to a business that I built? Yes. And they have my entire sympathy.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you know, and I know, when you're building a business, it becomes very, very personal. It has been said, like a baby, and it is very similar, isn't it? You're nurturing something that that you treasure, and to lose it almost through no fault of your own, really, is a very sad thing.
It is. And having lost a business, I know that. But I would say that. I mean, you were talking about advice to people in the situation where you're thinking of bringing in a colleague. I would say think very, very long and hard before you do.
Yeah.
If it's an established business that you set up,
Yeah.
I would almost say just think long and hard and then don't do it. I would say it's different if you're starting it together, but if you're bringing someone in, be sure and think back about your past relationships and how you've got on in situations where you've perhaps come into contact with them in a work situation previously. And just review all those. Say, well, how did they come out, and how did I feel at the end of them, and how do you think I'm going to feel like that in my business? So I took the decision too quickly. I didn't think about it enough, and had I probably wouldn't have done it. I would advise anyone who, likes looking to bring someone in at a ownership sharing level, at a management sharing level, into their own established business, it's a very large risk indeed.
Yeah. And I think the one good thing we can say about this, though, is that if that hadn't all happened to you, you wouldn't have set up Little Wheels. And
Completely.
And established what you've now got, which I guess is much more interesting, perhaps, than.
Yeah, and I now know that running your own business is a lot of fun. Yeah. Whereas my previous business was no fun at all, ever, at any time. This one is a hoot every day. I travel the country in my very smartly painted van with all my logos all over it. And yesterday I picked up a collection in Chester Street in Durham, and then looked in on a guy in Brighouse near Bradford who's got a house more full of models than I've ever seen. And I've seen some houses full of models. I've never seen so many in one place. And he wants to sell a lot. So I'm going to be doing deals with him over the next few months. Previous day, I was in Port Talbot and Taunton and Blackwood and various other places in the southwest. Doing the same thing. And, you come back with a van full of stock and you think, great, I've been out there and it's hunter home from the hill sort of thing. I've got my load of stock in the back, and then I unload it into the unit, and the guys get on selling it, and I go out again and buy some more. It is really quite a laugh.
Well, you're clearly enjoying it.
I
guess you're getting out and you're getting to meet people and having fun with it. And Absolutely. Isn't that what business should be about? Having
of course fun? It should. Yeah. You get to see inside some funny houses, I'll tell you that.
I think I was asking you last time we spoke about your car, and you said my company car's a van, and you said,
considering one time we met a while ago was we were both at Guy Savins picking up Jaguars.
Yeah.
And when I started this business, the Jaguar had to go because the boot wasn't big enough. I got a Mondeo Estate. Yeah. Then the Mondeo Estate wasn't big enough, and now I drive a Vauxhall Vivaro van, which is a bit different to the XJ6, it has to be said.
But when we spoke about that the other day, I could feel the humour in your voice. You were so chuffed that you got rid of the Jag and bought a Vauxhall van, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about building the business and enjoying yourself. And
well, I sort of went from Mondeo man to white van man, and I'm not making a political statement with that, but I just need to carry more stuff.
Well, I hope you're not driving like a white van man, but anyway, I'm sure you're not.
Oh, it gives you an awful lot of license for bad behaviour. You can be as bad as you like, and people just expect it.
Andrew, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you too, and thank you for bringing out the whole idea of understanding about how toxic a business can become, and how difficult and time-consuming and emotionally distressing it can become, and yet the transition into something new and something different, and the excitement around that, and the fun that you can have through a different business journey. I mean, it just, in a nutshell, it sort of pulls out your conversation there pulled out the differences between the two styles of business. Business doesn't have to be horrible. It can be fantastic, and that's what we want everyone to walk away from this this chat about, to understand that business can and should be good fun. And thanks for sharing it with us, Andrew. Really appreciate it.